Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Sheffield United 0, Aston Villa 5. Weren't expecting that one, were we, in the preview?
Welcome to what is the first ever apology podcast here on the Villa. We're just going to sit here explaining all of the reasons why you and I have absolutely no ball knowledge, it seems. You and I, we are truly, truly sorry. We both sat here in the preview saying, squeeze a 1-0, take a 2-1. Neither of us like this fixture. I put a short up yesterday that was like, should Villa be worried by playing Sheffield United? And so it's very rare in life generally that we're happy to end up with egg on our faces, but you and I truly underestimated, A, how good Aston Villa are, and B, how bad Sheffield United are. And honestly, I really did feel for them because it kind of felt that, both you and I recognise this, this is one thing I won't take back from the preview, is that it seemed to feel like they were finding some kind of momentum. It was quite a spirited performance away at Palace. But as soon as we took the lead so early on, it just kind of dissipated from there, didn't it, for them, really?
It did, mate. It did. We're more than happy to eat that, by the way. And I think you look at the numbers and we dominated in every single factor. We obviously scored 5 goals. 64% of the possession was ours. We had 14 shots, 10 on target, 4 corners, no offsides compared to their 6. 10 free kicks, 17 throw-ins. We really did, 6 big chances. We killed these guys. We absolutely killed these guys. And it was literally only a month ago when this sort of like rut started against this exact team at Villa Park. And I think it just kind of goes to show how how different it is playing at home versus away with the style of football that we play. Like, there is a pressure when you play at home to sort of dominate the play, sort of come out right from the start, all guns blazing, all action. And although, at Villa Park, we've certainly had some amazing results and performances against teams like your Sheffield United who are just going to sit and frustrate, it does make things a bit more difficult. And we know with how, again, to sort of repeat the point about that expectation of playing at home, Sheffield United had exactly that. They had to come onto us. They had to attack. They're in a dogfight. And that suited exactly how we play, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was, that of all the stats you just kind of reeled off at the start there, that one about 0 offsides for them just kind of really demonstrates how easy it was to find space in between that back line. I mean, Ollie Watkins was making the same run just time after time after time. He knew that we had the quality of midfield to pick him out. And that's really damning because Ollie Watkins was playing on the shoulder for basically, definitely the entirety of the first half and most of the game, to be honest with you. And the space was just there every time. The run was on every time. They just didn't know how to handle it. And honestly, they are just, it's really sad to say, and I hate writing teams off like this, but they're just not cut out for this level, unfortunately. There's a parallel universe where they got off to a better start. Obviously, they had that chance about 3 minutes in, Ben Brereton Diaz, and the ball kind of squirms out from underneath Emmy. And, it's not, he kind of comfortably calls it back before it's going over the goal line. But, it was when they kind of had that chance early on, you kind of felt that our fears pre-game had maybe been vindicated, that they were going to come flying out the traps, make things difficult for us. But as I say, it so quickly fell apart. And it was a game for me that really it reminded me of how far we've come, because, when you had in the second half, when, not to, skip past our 5 goals, and I'm sure we'll go through them, but when they're olaying their own passes, when they were, sarcastically cheering shots and stuff like that, like, we've been there not too long ago. We know how that feels, and we felt kind of Villa Park like that when you go into games and that really, unless you score the first goal, it's going to be so hard for you. And I think that was important for them. And you saw how their confidence was just zapped as soon as, McGinn got that first goal, and especially in the manner that they kind of conceded it, in that they perhaps thought they'd gotten out of jail when Ollie's chip hit the post and fell to John. But Yeah, it just, we've been there. We know how that feels, and we know that, the stadium just started to empty after about 20 minutes, and we know we've seen Villa Park like that, and so we probably more than most clubs in this league could probably understand how that feels when you're just kind of waiting for the inevitable. Really, I did feel for them in that regard, but we still had to go out there and do our jobs. But as I said, that how they just refused to kind of adapt, or couldn't adapt, is probably the better way to say it, to the way that we were playing. You did kind of feel for them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely spot on, mate. They're just not cut out for this level, and it's it's brutal. But when you look at the fact that Luton really should have won that game against Newcastle yesterday as well, the fight they put in this to score 4 goals against Newcastle, especially after what they did to us. And I mean, we've got Luton coming up again at some point soon, and so does Sheffield United. That's the next game, so you'd imagine that's them done really after that game. Like, you can comfortably say there is no chance of them staying up. But the John McGinn goal, 12 minutes in, mate, we've sort of come out from the traps, and this is the first time in a while where, we've killed the game off early, right? You said they were leaving after 20 minutes. It's 3-0 at that point. It's a shame that Ollie's shot, which obviously hits the post, that rebounds to Guinea, doesn't go in, because I thought that was a wonderful little chip. Unlucky for that to sort of bounce off. But the fact that Guinea ran like 40 yards to follow that ball in, like, just in case a ball fell to him in the box, that just epitomizes him, doesn't it? And you could even, when Watkins sort of dinked Fotheringham, I was thinking, oh my god, like I was half watching that, and I was half watching Guinea running in, because I'm thinking, you're just going to gash yourself out, mate, because Watkins is scoring here. But then obviously he's there for the tap-in, and absolutely made up for him. Absolutely made up for him. And it is the perfect start, really, mate, isn't it? It's a nice little, I say nice, it's just a little tap-in, really, isn't it? As he follows in. But you can't ask for a better way, a better time, really, to go 1-0 up. And it just totally riled him, mate, didn't it? It totally riled him. And it doesn't help that 4 minutes later, Douglas Luiz makes the best pass I've ever seen in my lifetime to Ollie Watkins, which, again, that goal's fantastic, but we have to talk about that pass, mate, because he's like broken physics making that pass. I'm convinced of it.
Honestly, like, what do you say about Dougie at this point? What do you say about Dougie? I think he's comfortably the best player in this team. He's one of our most important players. He's a player in our team that I just don't think that we could replace. We don't have anyone in the squad that can step in and do what he can. He's just amazing. He is just amazing. And it feels like such a far cry now from the player that we saw. Obviously, I know that we were playing him in holding midfield, but such a different player to the player that we saw probably in those first 2 seasons. The way that he plays with such confidence now, and the belief in his own abilities, and the belief in his teammates' abilities as well, to know that Ollie's going to be there, to put that ball on a plate for him, and just know that Ollie's going to run through and kind of tuck that away. He's just playing with a swagger now that you just so rarely see, kind of. And I honestly, I look forward to watching him like on a weekly basis, probably more so than I do any other player, because he is one of those players that now we have become slightly accustomed to. And there's moments now when he'll jig past a number 8 and slot a pass in behind a fullback, that because we see it so regularly, we kind of take it for granted almost. But every now and again, he just comes out with these blockbuster moments. And look, I don't want to take anything away from Ollie's finish. He's under a lot of pressure, and he puts it away quite nicely. But I hate to kind of say that, if Kevin De Bruyne makes that pass and it's Erling Haaland slotting it away, then. But it's very true. It's very true. But I will always say to Villa fans, I will always say that the more that our players can go under the radar, the better. If we are able to marvel at players inside our own little circle, and we keep them away from the clutches of the teams in and around the big 6, all the better, all the better. One of the best things about this season is that we've gone very much under the radar. We are just going about our business. We're not making a whole lot of noise. I'm fine with the discussion staying around guys like Kevin De Bruyne and all of that, because the longer that we can keep players like Douglas Luiz at Villa Park, the better.
Amen. And it makes like the little rut that we've had over this past month feel that little bit worse as well. Like when everyone's got eyes on you. I think that's something that we've struggled with. I think that's part of the reason why we've not been as good because we kicked up such a fuss with City and Arsenal, and then we've kind of had to deal with all that pressure. But in terms of somebody shining from, sort of being out of the spotlight, Leon Bailey again, mate. It's a sensational goal, and it's trademark Leon at this point, innit? You know he's going to receive the ball at the top of the box, come in and just stroke it in either of the top corners, and it's a wonderful finish. And I think it's only fair, mate, that we thank Cole Fotheringham for going and goal in this game, because he is comfortably the worst goalkeeper I think I've ever seen. And I guess we have to thank the other goalkeeper from Atletico Madrid, because I believe he got concussed and couldn't actually play, so they were sort of forced to play Fotheringham. Thank you, Chris Wilder. Thank you, Cole Fotheringham. Boy, we needed this. All of our players needed this, mate. But I mean, Fotheringham or Martinez, it's a wonderful goal that not very many keepers in this league would probably save, and a lot of people rightfully pointed out, which we did mention at the time as well, about the sort of Bailey injury and us sort of being careful, and that's why the RB started. And it's like, yeah, we were aware of that, but it still doesn't make it less frustrating. But Leon's clearly feeling a lot better in himself, and just the levels he's hit this season, mate, is absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure you've seen the reports on Twitter this morning that Craig Butler, his adopted father come agent, has seemingly agreed a new contract with Leon, because I think that was expiring next year. But obviously, like, you're sort of entering that final 18 months where you could potentially be in a bit of a standoff. And I think, given the relationship between Leon and Villa fans, you wouldn't necessarily begrudge him if he was like, do you know what, I think I could go somewhere else, because he's been given a bit of a hard time. But, that's like double good news, mate. The goal and the contract extension, as we've been talked about. They're saying it's going to make him one of the highest earners at the club as well, which I think at this stage is fully deserved.
Mate, this is such an underrated kind of story arc. There were genuinely points kind of last season when I was starting to think he'd maybe missed the boat. And I know that sounds maybe slightly dramatic, but it just really didn't feel like it was going to happen for Leon. And it was never a matter of ability, but he just didn't seem to have the confidence in his own ability. You could see that he never really seemed to play with any conviction, that when he got into wide areas, maybe when he beat a man, you could see him going through the process of, do I shoot, do I cross, do I beat another man? And he would often just kind of get muddled and nothing would end up happening. And it was a real, wingers that kind of play like Leon Bailey do are, when it's not going well, are a real source of frustration, because he is confident, he is very dribble happy, he always wants to come inside and take a shot, and it means that when it's not working, it can really be quite a dysfunctional part of the team, and it really wasn't for Leon. And the way that he's turned it around for this season, is just fantastic, and to see him kind of score goals like he did last night, you knew that what he was going to do, and you just couldn't stop it. But for me, it also gives me a lot of hope for someone like Moussa Diaby, who's, a lot has been said about his form recently, but he's playing at a much better level this season than Leon Bailey did in his first season. And so I think it gives us a lot of confidence that, if you give Moussa 1-2 more seasons on top of this one, then the levels that he could hit are really quite high. And so I really like what Leon's done. And I love that, he has turned it around, because I genuinely didn't think he was going to at points. And it's a lesson to us all to not write players off, even after 1, 2, 3 seasons. It really can take. We all knew that there was a player in there. It's just taken maybe a change of system, a change of manager, maybe some change on his personal end to really bring that out. But when he plays like he did yesterday, he's just a joy. And again, like very similar to Dougie, it's wonderful to see Villa players playing with so much confidence. And I think that really speaks to the atmosphere that we have at Bodymore, because it's not been an easy few games. You could forgive them for being a bit tentative, a little bit worried going into this game, but we never showed any signs of that.
No, mate. No, absolutely. And I think what kind of summed up not only this game, but just sort of Sheffield United's attitudes, not attitude, but application, I guess, is the final 2 goals. Because, I mean, Yuri Tillemans, take a bow. But the fact we tried the exact same thing a mere 30 seconds before, and they didn't think, maybe we should mark this guy for the next corner. You're going down. That's just that's poor in-game management, and not even just from Chris Wilder, from the players to kind of pick up on that themselves. And it's so satisfying when it hits the crossbar and goes in like that. And you can't ask for. Like, I think I'd prefer that over like a sort of upper 90. Like, I think that's better.
I agree. No, but you've made the point that I was going to bring up, mate. The fact that he had that chance, the corner routine before the goal is actually much more impressive than the one that led to the goal.
Right.
The way that we work it into Yuri, and he'll actually be disappointed, and it's only just cleared from underneath the crossbar, but he doesn't catch it very well, and then we run almost a carbon copy, and it finds Yuri in exactly the same space, and we've been waiting for our first Yuri Tielemans banger, and we have it. But yeah, that was my main takeaway from that goal, is almost like, what is going on? Like, how can you allow the same situation to basically unravel? But yeah, I mean, you can't complain. Yuri definitely has that in his locker. And again, another great player who's definitely turned it around from the start of this season. And so, the 5 goals, 5 different scorers, Yuri being one of them, it's only good news, mate.
It is. And, half-time 4-0, absolutely ecstatic. You're on cloud 9. And the fact that we come out and, I speak to a lot of people at half-time, and we were all kind of like, wouldn't it just be typical if the game just sort of ends 4-0 and we don't really do anything? And that was kind of the feeling. There was this kind of like, well, Villa will Villa, and we'll go into game management mode. And because we play Chelsea on Wednesday, that's something to consider. So we're already 4-0 up. Why keep going? But then the other side of that argument is they're there for the taking, and things can go down to goal difference at the end of the season. If we are in a race for top 4, I don't want to say title, because I think we are firmly out of that. But it could all come down to goals scored, goals conceded. So it's important that when a team like Sheffield United presents themselves, you have to take advantage. So I was absolutely buzzing when Moreno scored. I think Moreno's my favourite Villa player. I think he's my favourite Villa player at the moment.
Nice.
Technical ability wise, absolutely phenomenal. Always good for a goal. And again, as I kind of mentioned a minute ago, this goal was totally avoidable from a Sheffield United perspective. And it's, you have to give Villa the credit, right? But that sort of the ball is sort of coming out. It's dropping at the sort of far post and towards Leon Bailey, and Trusty doesn't fully commit to taking Bailey out. He just sort of half barges him, wins the ball, sort of brings it down, tries to clear it, and Ollie, being the phenomenal striker he is putting Trusty under a ton of pressure. The ball falls to him. It's a simple, I say simple, but he waits the cross perfectly to Moreno in all that space on the other side. It's one of the easiest goals Alex Moreno will ever score in his entire career. But that just sums them up, right? Because Trusty could have fully just gone for Leon. He could have committed to that bit, maybe given away a corner. And maybe we are looking at another Tielemans situation again, but that I just felt like that just summed up Sheffield United. And at that point, it's 5, and you just kind of know that's going to be it, really. When do we ever score more than 5? When does that happen?
Well, once, I can tell you that. Our record away Premier League victory is 6-0 all the way back in 2008 against Derby County.
Yeah.
So it's very similar kind of opposition. Sheffield United obviously made headlines for the fact that no team in Premier League history have conceded more goals than they have at this point in the season. And so, but that goal was, still very good. I think you've got to praise Ollie for the awareness and the kind of first time cross that he put us across. But yeah, Moreno is in so much space, and as soon as that ball kind of left Ollie's boot, you knew that it was going to be a goal. And I do understand why we took our foot off the gas, because as you say, we've got that replay, which I think we obviously want to take seriously. We want to continue in that competition, and I genuinely think it's a good opportunity to knock one of the big boys out of this competition in a game that we've got a big chance in. And so, yeah, I think basically as soon as that 5th goal went in, my mind kind of went, right, let's get Morgan Rogers on, let's get Moussa Diaby on, let's try and get these guys who are on the periphery of the squad that could play a big role in games like Tuesday night. let's see if we can get them on a score sheet. And, we never quite managed that. But there were some good moments, I thought, for both players. Both could have had a goal, really. Musa kind of has that opportunity where he cuts in on his left foot and it's saved by Fotheringham. And then Morgan Rogers is in and around the penalty spot for that cutback. And he's just kind of leaning back. The technique is not quite right and it goes over the bar. But yeah, I think Villa definitely didn't play with the intensity. I was thinking yesterday, I mean, forgive me, there are probably guys in the comments that can remember that game at Derby in 2008. I was kind of a mere 9-10 years old, so I can't say that I do. But this is probably the easiest league game I think I've ever seen Villa play.
I think
I can't remember a game. We genuinely played at on a 50-40% capacity for most of that second half. It was a game that, honestly, I think if you'd have said to both sides at 50 minutes, you just want to call it a day, I honestly think both of them would have done. Sheffield United really kind of, and until Cameron Archer came on, and I wanted to give him a shout out because he didn't came on and didn't care about the scoreline. He played with a lot of conviction. You would have thought they were a goal down, maybe chasing the game. The intensity that he came on with, obviously they end up with the ball in the net, and I'm very glad that we came up with a clean sheet because that. Not to, you never really sour a 5-0 defeat, but, the clean sheet, if you lost it right at the end and from a set piece, would have, slightly dampened the mood. But yeah, definitely the easiest league game I think I've seen us play. We could have gone on and ended up with an 8-0 scoreline like Newcastle did earlier in the season. But I think the message was, not even after the 5th goal, I think probably at half time was, right, lads, we don't want any injuries. Let's just see this one out, keep it professional. And I think keeping a clean sheet was probably more important than adding, a 5th, a 6th, a 7th, an 8th goal. And we did just about did that, but we did that. And I think that's an underrated element to yesterday's because we have been shipping a fair few goals recently, 9 in our last 5 prior to this one. So making sure that we came out of this game, particularly Sheffield United away with a clean sheet was important.
Absolutely. I think my only complaint is that Konsa sort of comes off injured, and you can only hope that was a sort of precautionary thing. He seemed to be walking all right when he sort of came off, but I mean, my biggest beef with that is he was 1 minute away from the clean sheet points on Fantasy Premier League.
I know.
1 minute
this week as well. Oh.
1 minute from that's the difference between 1 and 7 points if he just laid on the floor for 1 more minute. So I'm a bit upset that happened for that reason as well. But I do hope Ezri's okay. And as you say, mate, I think it was a good opportunity for like in a game like this for someone like Kashi, who I've given a bit of a tough time to recently, and I've totally valid criticisms in my opinion. But for someone like him to come on, gain a bit more confidence. Same with Diaby. Interested, we saw Tim in this game. I'd like to know your thoughts on that, mate, because I felt like he didn't really do a lot, and I also feel the same about Rogers. And I mean, they sort of come on with 20 and 10 minutes left remaining respectively, and this isn't a slight on them at all. Again, we're 5-0 up, we're in game management mode, but I just wonder how many opportunities there are for Tim between now and the end of the season, and what Tim's future looks like beyond the end of this season at the club. Not to sort of speculate or whatever, but I think we were both sort of surprised at how warm Unai was to Tim, especially, sort of amidst the departure of Dendoncker. Because listen, I know Tim's had his injuries, and that's why he's sort of been out for large portions of this season. So that is obviously something to consider with the performances as well. But we've both kind of said at times it feels like we've sort of missed the boat on Tim. We haven't missed the boat. Tim's missed the boat with Villa, really, in terms of growth development. We've kind of maybe put ourselves in a position where Tim's not going to get the time that we maybe thought he would have done 18 months ago to develop in this side. Is that fair?
No, that's absolutely fair, mate. That's absolutely fair, especially when you consider that he's been here all season. We didn't recall him from a loan or like he's been here, and for a lot of the parts this season, he just kind of felt like a forgotten man. He wasn't really getting in the match day squads. We knew that he was in and around Bodymore, but it's like, what's the plan with him? And 6 months or so with only a few minutes here and there is is a long time. And that's a long time for a player at that age as well, especially when they need to be getting consistent minutes. And so I am, this is probably the start of what's to come, because as you rightly say, mate, we got a lot of glowing references from Unai when Leander left, and he was like, no, we're not going to sign another player in that position. Tim Irabunum's my guy. And I think I'm happy that we're taking that approach, and I would like to see it more, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of players that, like, I'm glad that I know we've signed Nedeljkovic, but obviously someone like Kane Kessler-Hayden is coming in, and we're expected to see him a little bit more this season. I think I'm excited to see that, and I want to see these guys get more minutes. I think it's those kind of roles right on the edges of the squad that I think you're better off, especially in this world where, every club is so worried about FFP, that you're better off filling it with academy graduates. And we know that they're good enough because they're certainly in demand whenever they're up for sale. And so I'm happy to see Tim get more minutes in. Yeah, look, it's never a game or a situation that he's going to wow in. He's essentially coming in and playing in what is a kind of friendly intensity. But for him and for Morgan Rogers, I was surprised that they came on probably in the order that they did. I thought Rogers would get more time, but obviously he was kind of one of the latter substitutes. And I thought Rogers would probably come on a little bit earlier because, I mean, if he can come on and get a goal in his debut, like what an amazing position to be in, because he's a player that, we might have to wait some time to get Morgan Rogers his first goal for Villa, and that's not an ability thing, just because he's probably not going to get too many starts between now and the end of the season. He's coming on in Premier League games as a player that's never played in this division, which is going to take a lot of adapting to. We saw the wait it took for someone like John Duran to get his first goal, and I thought that this is probably the best opportunity in terms of the opposition that Rogers is going to have to get off the mark. And so, I was surprised that Morgan didn't get more of a run out than he did. But for Tim, I'm happy, man. We know that there's a player that we were so excited by.
Yeah, we were.
You rewind 18 months ago. So, let's see what we can do between now and May.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I hope there are the opportunities for him. I really do. Especially from when you sort of look at it through that FFP lens. Like we either need these guys to do it for us so we can save a little bit of cash, or show enough that we can get a couple quid for him. I think that's really important. But overall, mate, 5-star performance in more ways than one. Absolutely what we need is, this is what we were hoping for, we just weren't expecting. So I think, we can all be happy. And, Dan and I will be back within the next day or so to preview Chelsea. And, it's interesting. Your point about Rogers' game time is interesting, because I imagine he'll be cup tied for this Chelsea game as well. So it'll be interesting to see how we line up for that one. I think I sort of look at Chelsea, and I know they're in the Carabao Cup final, but like they could probably do without this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how they line up. But we'll talk about that in a couple of days' time. Don't you guys worry. So if you enjoyed the episode, let us know by leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe if you listen to Apple or Spotify, share with your friends, download, favourite, all that. It helps us more than you guys can imagine. Up the Villa.